Hi, my name is Gerry Adams. I'm a radiation oncologist who works in Bundaberg in Queensland, and I'm currently in the role of chair of the MATEC committee of RANZCR, and MATEC being the Maori, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Empowerment Committee.
And tell me, what is the work of that committee and also the composition?
Yeah, so the work of the committee is really to look at First Nations issues throughout the college, and really to provide that Indigenous lens to the whole of the college, so that the idea being that the whole college can grow and expand and incorporate and hopefully close the obvious gaps that we have to make our college a safer place for Indigenous doctors, and ultimately for us all to work to make sure that in our practice we are better at meeting the needs of our Indigenous populations that we treat, and also Indigenous people that we come across in our workforce.
Where is that safety lacking now in terms of workforce and patient care?
Well, certainly within the college, it's understandable and open knowledge that the number of Indigenous doctors is lower than the targets of the representation that we would expect to have, and obviously I think that that is due to structural issues within society beyond the scope of colleges. But I think it's important that colleges recognise those gaps and do what they can to address those deficiencies and try to just make life better for everyone.
What does and I should ask the question, you're a non-Indigenous person heading this committee. Why is that?
Well, that comes from, so this committee was set up a few years ago under the auspices of the board of the college, and there's direction from higher organisations such as the Australian Medical College to make sure that colleges have that focus. I've risen to a reasonably high level within the college, so I was Dean of the Faculty of Radiation Oncology for the past 2 years, having served on on the faculty council for a few years before that and served on various committees. So I suppose I'm seen as someone who has a reasonable knowledge of the structures within the college, and I think that's important for committees like this, that people who are involved in the committees know the structure of the college, so that they can help navigate things. Unfortunately, it's obvious that at our current times, the number of Indigenous doctors that we have is low, and understandably, I think many of our Indigenous doctors may not feel comfortable with taking on such an authoritative position just yet.
How low are the numbers?
So it's only a few percentage. We have reasonable representation in New Zealand, and an increasing number of representation in Australia, and certainly our most recent cohorts of trainees has certainly increased over the last few years. We've got to remember that it takes 5 years to produce a doctor through a specialist doctor through our college, so it's obviously going to take time for that to come through. One of the sad things is that we don't have any Indigenous radiation oncologists within Australia at present, and that's something that's challenging, and that's something that we need to improve. Now, our radiation oncology is a very small medical specialty. We only make up a fifth of our own college, for example. So the majority of our college is clinical radiologists, where there are a number of Indigenous doctors. So it may well be that at this early stage, it's a problem with small numbers. There's a small number of Indigenous doctors, and radiation oncology is a relatively small medical field. So it's probably understandable at this stage that the small number of Indigenous doctors who choose to go into medical specialties, radiation oncology may not be the preferred field. However, cancer is a very important disease within Indigenous populations, and there are growing incidents of cancer, and I think it's probably not long before cancer will be, as we improve survival from other medical conditions, the Indigenous population's exposure to cancer will increase. So I think it's really important for a college like ours to look forward, and hopefully that in the years to come there will be Indigenous radiation oncologists who really can help the rest of us develop and think about how we deliver cancer care to the Indigenous population, because I think while all of us can be allies and help support, for us all to work together and to get best outcomes, I think we'll all be better if we have that Indigenous workforce within our college.
And do you feel that the committee has that pathway through to the rest of the college to actually bring about that systemic change that is really big, isn't it?
So the college, medical colleges have a number of things that they have to look at. They look at training of junior doctors, they look at professional development of established doctors, they look at research, they look at sustainability through health economics and things like that. So we've very much focused in the early years of looking at representation within the training committees and the professional development committees and also the research committees, so that we really have encouraged the Indigenous members of our committee to be there and involved at the forefront of those committees, which helps shape the future direction of the college, and so that there is an Indigenous voice in the room when all decisions are being made in those crucial committees. We've established encouragement for funding for Indigenous health research, so the college supports a lot of research with the college doesn't actually do the research itself, but it provides funding, seed funding for our members to go off and do research, and there's specific funding and specific scores allocation in our decision-making mechanisms to prioritise research in for First Nations health in radiation oncology and radiology. So it's by things like that, I think, that we can gradually turn the ship around and start moving things in the right direction. It's not going to happen overnight, but I think we're making good inroads. And going back to your question about the makeup of the committee, I acknowledge that me as a non-Indigenous Irish man, being head of an organisation, being the chair of an organisation like this within Australia, seems a little bit strange. But I think it's from my knowledge and my work within the college and other areas that I hope that I can support and help growth. And we do have a number of we do certainly have Indigenous representation in our committee from both New Zealand and Australia, and that I hope that as we get this groundswell, as we get more junior, because it will be a young cohort of people that enter the organisation who are going to make the real change in the future. But hopefully my job is there to support them and nurture them and mentor them so that they can take on those roles in the future.
Fantastic, Gerry. Thank you very much.